All right, folks. So Bob Ferguson here and with Tommy Hexter. And Tommy lives a dual life as an Iowa Farmers Union guy and also as a business person who has a food hub, a for-profit food hub. I'm going to be making these little interviews every week and then putting them in the update, but basically to talk among ourselves and really tease out some of the ways people are thinking about this, the things they're excited about. So Tommy, the floor is yours. You can have whatever hat you want. Wear them both at the same time. Anyway, over to you.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, it's funny you say saying that I live a dual life makes me sound like a double agent or secret spy or something. And in reality, it's all just centered around food systems. And ever since growing up on a little farm in Virginia, I've always had my heart set on food. I studied food systems in college, and now being able to focus on food systems in the heart of uh, the global food system here in Iowa is really a fascinating thing. And so I guess I'll start by contextualizing what I basically think about our food system and frame the context a little bit. So we've got a global food supply chain, and that is the dominant way that our world is fed. Over 99.3% of our food goes through this long food supply chain, over 10 intermediary organizations between your producer and the consumer. And as that happens, that's the way that our world has responded to feeding more and more people with fewer and fewer farmers. But that has resulted in problems in agriculture, and it's resulted namely in the problem that our producers and everyone along that supply chain are making too little money, to the point where now farmers are only making 14 cents to the dollar for what they produce. And there's an easy solution to that problem, and I think we all know what it is, and that's shortening the supply chain, relocalizing, re-regionalizing our food system. And so the key question, the key challenge at hand is how do we reinvest our resources away from this global food supply chain into a shorter food supply chain? And I think if we can do that, then we can start to create system that will feed people better, profit farmers and small communities better, care for the environment better, create social networks, and ultimately revitalize our food system, rural America, communities, and the sky is the limit with this kind of stuff. I think the reason a lot of us are interested in this food stuff is because we realize it's at the center of almost all of our social issues, whether it be social justice, environmental health, all of these things. And so shortening our food supply chain, creating the resource network for those short food supply chains to survive is our challenge. And I just want to take a few minutes today to share about some ways that I think we are doing that and we can continue to do that.
Terrific.
Yeah. So the first is, when we think about a short food supply chain or local foods, we're often thinking farmers markets, CSAs, that kind of hyper local, where the farmer is just selling directly to a producer. It's a very inefficient system compared to the global food supply chain, the anonymous food supply chain. But we don't want to lose all of that to make it more efficient. We want to make sure that it remains source identified, the farmer is still being valued as a human, the practices are being valued by the consumer, but we do need to find ways to make that more efficient. And so the growing network of food hubs in Iowa and beyond, acting as larger wholesale distributors for food, is one example of how we can begin to scale up and use resources more similarly to how the global food system does. And so if we think of Cisco or Sodexo, they've got all their trucking, their distribution lines, their warehouses, their freezers. What if we did that except for smaller producers and people that we know are doing it right and selling here in Iowa? And I think that's what we're seeing with food hubs in Iowa, the food hub network beginning to run distribution and delivery routes, having nodes across the state where they can store product, cross dock, and figuring out the logistics there so that we can basically run a regional food Cisco, except we're in control of it. We get to control the production. And so that is one really exciting way that I see this starting to pan out. Now, another key asset here is thinking about labor. And the labor in our state has increasingly gone from more agricultural focused to, within the last 60 years, becoming really focused on other industries, production of plastics and windows and all these sorts of other companies. And meat packing is another one. So we have a lot of labor in the state working in industries that could be transformed into working into food system jobs. And so how can we begin to invest our human resources back into these smaller systems? And I think this is a really interesting one. We've got opportunity with things like the Butchery Innovation and Revitalization Program to see small town butchers come into play. And how can we bring our community colleges and other institutions of higher education into that conversation to say, what kind of training can we provide to bring real jobs?
We need.
Yeah. And yeah, I think with the question of labor there, there's so many people that are wondering, why are the young folks leaving Iowa right now? And as a young person that moved to Iowa, I think it's because there's a challenge in knowing what is the opportunity for me here, and figuring out how to plug people into these opportunities that exist is going to be really key moving forward.